Welcome to Akhand Vidyashram, the first institute of impeccable wisdom. Let's discuss what acetylcholine, an excitation action potential, not an inhibition action potential. Let's understand acetylcholine first. It is an organic compound that serves as a crucial neurotransmitter in the brain and body, transmitting signals between nerve cells. As you can see, a nerve cell, in this particular you can see sensory component, you can see motor component, you can see the union as well as interneuron in between. And all these places where the union takes place between the receptor and the terminal end, as the union axon to axon or whatever it is, there is a transmission which takes place with a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine. That is, as a result, it's most important vital neurotransmitter in our body, which can make us perfectly healthy, wealthy, wise and happy, starting from skeletal muscles to smooth muscles to the cardiac muscles to entire nervous system, which can make us very sensitive to everything, and entire concern of sensory, mind, intelligence, intuition and superconsciousness. Everything centers around only acetylcholine. Anyone who has a perfect acetylcholine 24/7 would be the perfect human being, as a walking, talking encyclopedia. It will make your sensory system to understand things completely and also execute properly, also remember and execute inside and outside entire thing world. So from my point of view, acetylcholine is the most important thing which makes a person perfectly healthy, free from all the complaints of psychology or otherwise. Anyone who does not have a perfect acetylcholine would not be a perfect human being. Like water, sodium, glucose, oxygen and all the energy molecules including this, and I consider acetylcholine to be very important, on par with the most important thing. That's the reason I am talking about. At the same time, in the beginning itself, let me tell you very clearly, there is only one place in the world I know where acetylcholine is served to everybody literally free of cost from morning till night, is Mata Vaishno Devi's temple. You must be wondering what I am referring to. I am referring to Rajma Chawal, the rice and beans, which have bean size exactly like the universe, 22/7, and the rice particular together, the combination, when used in right concentration on regular basis, amount of methionine is absorption is clear, so is choline, so is acetyl as such CoA to form the compound acetylcholine. Anyone who takes that is a perfectly healthy. At the same time, soya beans and many of these combinations of amino acids put together, choline as an amino acid, put together will be perfectly healthy, wealthy, wise and happy, and there is nothing impossible or difficult for them, provided they have acetylcholine in sufficient quantity. From that statement, I am very happy that I come from the background where it was considered, and from that I have understood the research has done to prove acetylcholine will be better with the people who are taking Rajma Chawal or the rice and beans regularly on regular basis. Now to come to the question of second thing of acetylcholine. It is involved in the wide range of functions. Very clear, it can do vague functions, including muscle contraction at the neuromuscular junction. And this is a picture which I am showing about. It's a neuromuscular junction, transmission from nerve cell to the muscles, how the conduction from sensory system to the motor complex is going to take place, and entire reflex action would center on this conduction. So acetylcholine is very important if you want to have a perfect reflex action potential, local or otherwise. Second thing is learning and memory. If you want to understand concept very clearly, divine mathematics, divine physics, divine chemistry, divine biology, divine medical sciences. For that matter, all the 64 arts and sciences to be understood very clearly, you should have more than enough acetylcholine. Then the way you want to be sensory attention to the world, if you want to see the world very clearly with awareness of the Kundalini, Antaratma, otherwise you need acetylcholine. Then even for sleep wakeful cycle, you have to go through this process. So you can imagine the kind of function acetylcholine is going to give you. And anyone who does not acetylcholine in sufficient quantity could suffer from many problems which I would not like to involve here. But I can tell you, acetylcholine will make you a perfect human being. If you want to be a perfect, you got to make sure that you have enough supply. Only then you will be muscular, you will be intelligent, you will be intuitive, and you will be otherwise. So that's the reason I'm making this acetylcholine as a very important video for me, and also raising that we should think of this particular product as very clearly, not have misconception which neuroscientists or neurochemists or pharmacology people are saying that acetylcholine is excitation. At the same time it can work as inhibition. Why it is not inhibition, it is excitation only. But what is inhibition, I will be explaining to you as we proceed with that. It's a misconception which needs to be removed. So all the defective things which are confusing us should, because there is only one thing, one particular thing it cannot do two things. If a second thing is opposite, is done by somebody else, not by the person, or there is another divine mathematics as such. Now come to the question of acetylcholine. Its functions are influenced by its chemical structure and acetic acid and choline. Now very clear, these you can see both of them together. Lower picture you can see acetylcholine CoA and choline getting together and form CoA and acetylcholine together, and that is the choline reaction as such. I think that is very clear, these two things, and you can see the formula of both put together on top. Once this chemical formula, the structure is there, you know very well where choline comes from and where acetylcholine comes from. I am not getting into details of that as such, but you can see the picture very clearly. Glucose is converted to choline and choline comes from outside, and that is the picture which I have shown in the beginning itself, which you can read it later how both are formed and together as such, but we are going to concentrate on acetylcholine as such. Now come to the question. Acetyl formula is a 2 carbon 4 hydrogen 1 O. That means there are 24 protons in this. 6 into 2 is 12, 1 into 4 is 4, 1 into 8. So 12 plus 4 plus 8 is 24, and I think acetyl makes it very clear. This is the formula which is essential, the first part, which comes from glucose. Let that be clear. It is glucose which gives you acetylcholine. From ATP to glycolysis to stage to this particular thing for the next production of acetylcholine which is going to be produced. Now comes to the choline. Choline is vitamin B4 and formula is carbon 5, hydrogen 14, nitrogen 1 and oxygen 1. It is a positively charged. Now comes the question of protein. 5 into 6 is 30, 1 into 14 is 14, 1 to 7 is 1 and 8. 30 plus 14, 44 plus 51 plus 8 is 59. Both 24 plus 59 together should be 83 together. But when come to the acetylcholine, it is not 83, it is 82 only. That means somewhere along the 2 hydrogen has been taken, but the carbon 7 remains. Instead of hydrogen 16, now it should have been 18, which is only 16. 2 have been taken. Nitrogen and oxygen 2 remain same. So this is one. The hidden message is acetyl plus choline union. H2 have been removed to bring the union between two. That means that this is going to act as a bond. So 2 hydrogen bond is responsible in this to form acetylcholine. So that is a kind of concept we should understand, and then only we understand neurochemistry as such, or for that in organic chemistry or biochemistry, all have to be understood in full detailed concept very clearly how nature functions within the body. Now to come to the acetylcholine and honest comment which I have made in the very beginning. Neurochemistry pharmacology knowledge which is given in the books, which I have seen the pharmacology people teaching medical students very clear. They say acetylcholine produces an excitation potential. You can see nerve cell giving excitation produce, that is one thing which we know very clearly. But many people say acetylcholine produces inhibition potential also, is also something referring again. My conception perception, acetylcholine is excitatory neurotransmitter only. Acetyl cannot be an opposite function of inhibition neurotransmitter at all. If this is something which we will understand once again. Now come to the question of understanding how the acetylcholine functions of the autonomic nervous system. Right, or at the front of the whole nervous system, everything is revolves around nervous system, so let's put it as a nervous system. Right at the top you can see one signal is acetylcholine is giving it to the blood vessels, and it is producing constriction as such, excitation and sensory component, and they contract the vessels. That's one part. Second thing is again done. You can see the chemistry hormones, acetylcholine in blood vessels, again a contraction, acetylcholine into the sympathetic system in sweat glands as one part, and acetylcholine to the atropine based thing. So sympathetic system in this picture is very, very clear. Both in the beginning preganglion it is acetylcholine, and postganglion it is noradrenaline, but in sweat gland it is acetylcholine, but in sweat glands so you call adrenal gland. When come to the adrenal medulla, it is acetylcholine only, but all of them producing only sympathomimetic hormones. Other mean action is excitation by and large. So this is very clear, it is producing only excitation. Now comes the question of parasympathetic system which we are talking about. That has two fibers, preganglion fibers and postganglion fibers. Preganglion fiber neurotransmitter is acetylcholine. In postganglion also is acetylcholine. And all the parasympathetic system which includes salivary glands, heart and other thing, it is a parasympathetic acetylcholine as such. But both are producing excitation, otherwise the action will not take place. So if salivary glands have to produce, it has to be acetylcholine plus acetylcholine, but sympathetic it is acetylcholine plus adrenaline, or it could be also acetylcholine only or directly into that. And once this is understood, carry home message is very clear. Acetylcholine is doing excitation, but something like sympathetic system, it is not adrenaline comes to play, whereas in case of parasympathetic it is acetylcholine and acetylcholine alone. Once that is understood is very clear. So it's a noradrenaline producing further excitation, but at preganglion and postganglion it is again a stimulation which carries the message from one to other. That's the message which I am carrying to you. Hope it's very clear. It is only transmission is only excitation or stimulation. It is not inhibiting. Without that, signal will not go to next stage. The one which is actually manufacturing in sympathetic is not adrenaline, which is sympathomimetic. That's it. Now comes to the question, acetylcholine. Parts of the body that use are affected by acetylcholine are referred to as cholinergic fibers. Now come to the question, cholinergic. And that antagonist is atropine at tribulin. Atropine is nothing but adrenaline only. That means cholinergic fibers are negative as such and excitation that, but that is not true. That is exactly is antagonist is opposite action, not doesn't mean that they have a different action. And that is the message which cholinergic fiber is only excitation, but opposite thing would be this. In other words, the message which is very clear, if you want to be calm and quiet person, well within your respect, like a yoga, calm, quiet, sleep comfortably and do nothing at all, as cholinergic or acetylcholine will help you. But if that is not under control, if the atropine comes to play a role, you could have the problems, and unless until you want an extra energy, you should not go to atropine or adrenaline as such. That is the message which I am giving very clearly. Acetylcholine or as such is for health, rest, digest and conserve energy for future use. But for mobilizing it is sympathetic. For parasympathetic, rest, digest and conserve energy. Once that is clear, then you know actually both are functioning there well, but they are not inhibiting. One is doing for the future, one is doing for this. But excite work as such is only excitation. Biosynthesis, choline acetylcholine is there, that people can read it. Metabolism, acetylcholinesterase. Receptors are nicotinic and muscarinic. That is two things where acetylcholine will work. One on nicotinic acid, another is muscarinic. And the tissues involved are the motor neuron, smooth muscles, autonomic nervous system, brain, etc., etc., etc. Now come to the cholinergic receptor. These cell surface proteins respond to the neurotransmitter acetylcholine. There are two types, nicotinic acid. Nicotinic receptors are ligand-based gated ion channels found in neuromuscular junctions and in the central nervous system. The picture in thumbnail is also neuromuscular junction. Same thing with neuron to neuron union or axon to axon union all over the nervous system. It is this muscular. Nicotine is one where cigarette is nicotine. That is the one which excitation comes. So this will work an excitation to produce action further. That's again thing. Maybe the people who take nicotinic acid in the form of smoke or different forms would actually, depending on site, they are not letting the body produce nicotinic acid and do anything external. Once you get used to that, they would give you extra excitation required, not the normal what is required. So hence taking smoking or doing anything which is going to bring, and once that is left, your system will not work. That is one of the reasons which I keep telling all the psychiatrists and all the people. Don't take something external which is not produced in the body. Let the body produce with the diet alone. And from my experience, I find pure vegetarian diet, which is a perfect human diet, is a perfect, will produce all the things provided you know the knowledge of entire Ayurveda, all the vegetable completely, you will be able to make yourself perfectly healthy. So the message is very clear. Nicotinic acid on which work is further thing, but then let that be produced by the body, not from external. If you are going to take from external, it will do overexcitation, maybe cancer and many things. That is the message very clear. Muscarinic receptors are G protein coupled receptors that are involved in regulating functions of the parasympathetic nervous system. Now the something parasympathetic is G protein, and G protein is again like adenine again. That is one which is completely on parasympathetic. This is a sympathetic or excitation. If you want to get into sympathetic overactivity, smoking, all the drugs would have an effect. But if you don't want that, let the parasympathetic system work. As a result, your heart rate will be normal, digestion will be normal, everything is normal. And the whole objective of Akhand Yoga is to give you more of a perfect parasympathetic system, cranial as well as sacral parasympathetic. Not into sympathetic. Sympathetic should be only when there is a need for extra energy. So, somewhere nicotinic acid receptors not do something from external in any drug form. That is my message, very clear from yoga point of view, from health, wealth, wisdom point of view. Now come to the question, cholinergic fibers. You can see these four different types. I am not getting into detail, but the whole concept is this is what happens, and you can see what is in different parts as such. We are going to see these two things one by one as such. Now cholinergic receptors. In those you can see one thing. M1 is secretory glands which have a look like saliva secretion otherwise, and M2 is heart alpha, decrease the heart rate and keep it to a normal, and I would say avoid tachycardia and you will be healthier person. If you can maintain your heart rate of 72, which cholinergic fibers can do it, is better than letting it go for sympathetic overactivity with excitation, which nicotinic acid can do, or all those kind of things can do. So here is muscarinic is important. M3 are the smooth muscles like gastrointestinal, respiratory, etc. Okay, and there also contraction of smooth muscles for food or otherwise is very clear, and this is kept. If this is overdone, it could also lead to diarrhea, bronchospasm, other thing. This is one thing which I am making it very clear. Acetylcholine excess also, like your whole process, can give you bronchospasm, asthma. It can also give you many of the problems that is also not required. And in that particular concept, if you are perfectly healthy, your body will be able to produce the required sympathetic system to keep the balance. So that is also important to make sure that you take acetylcholine is not giving you to bronchospasm, it's not giving you diarrhea, it's not giving you any of the health issues. So important is to experience that within your body itself. These are the indications. If you are going for bradycardia, too low like 40, 50 is also dangerous. Maintaining 72 is the ideal, but never below 60, not more than 100 either. And keeping that balance is what is Akhand Yoga is all about. Then M3 also got pupil and ciliary thing is contracted with the concentration of the pupil in the eyes to see in the darkness, always light together. Person who has a perfect acetylcholine would be able to see in darkness much more clearly the person who has a deficiency. So this balance is also required to understand along with vitamin A as such. The whole process is together, that is one part. Then come to the question of nicotinic acid, skeletal muscles and whole concept, contraction, you need acetylcholine and you have the fibers which are nicotinic acid there. So this is what nicotinic is all about. Second thing, autonomic ganglion, which gives the core concentration to the adrenal medulla, and also the complete autonomic nervous system is again nicotinic again, but let that be again noradrenaline, not as a nicotine from outside. So I think once this is understood, you can be a perfectly healthy person and lead a perfectly healthy. A balance is more important in sympathetic system and parasympathetic system. That autonomic balance can be need how much required. Deficiency could also give a problem, or excess without a balance could also be a problematic. And these are the same thing which I talked about earlier in again classification little differently. Then now I am giving you another picture of the sympathetic system. You have noradrenaline, alpha and beta, alpha 1, alpha 2. And what the function they do is muscle, smooth muscle contraction as such. Sympathetic system again. Now let me make it one thing very clear. This picture I am bringing, most of the scientists talk about the classification of nervous system as the brain, then motor, sensory, then autonomic nervous system, involuntary, sympathetic and parasympathetic. They forget that further thing is a local graded at 7th level, where heart, digestive system and muscles of the bladder come to play, is a local thing, and all that also has to be kept very clearly. And then vessels, sympathetic system works on vessels throughout the body as such, whereas parasympathetic system put together have those combination. Once Sympathetic alone will be doing excitation. When parasympathetic combination comes, then there is a balance, and once that is understood, I think you can have absolutely no problem whatsoever. Now the carry home message is very clear. Acetylcholine from beans or soya beans and rice is a fantastic combination to produce adequate, keep it healthy. So if you different forms to make sure content is there, but not too much, not too little. Then in the process you will not have any psychological problem, you will not suffer from any of the things which I call Kundalini syndromes. So from Kundalini syndrome, a perfect acetylcholine combination is absolutely essential. And I think that's enough for the day. And let's say thank you very much. If you have understood this concept, read it again. If you want to be healthy, wealthy, wise and happy and not suffer from any psychological problem, either depression or excitation are both ways. Depression is also a problem, excitation is also a problem. Leading a very calm and quiet life but having enough skeletal muscles, smooth muscles, cardiac muscles and entire nervous system is only going to make you intuitive, intelligent otherwise if you do not keep a balance of acetylcholine within normal level. Could have a problem at any level, at every level, and that's a message I think enough for the day. Thank you very much.